Great, good. Well, welcome everyone to our regular meeting. This is a new format for us this time around, a new live streaming virtual meeting. So we're very grateful to be able to do this and to be able to now offer recorded sessions that will be available on our trustee page afterwards. We thank you really for both the encouragement and your patience as we kind of work through issues to get us to this important place. And we hope it all goes well in our first time offering. I also just want to acknowledge, I know there was a communication just sent out letting people know how to engage with the new format, and did appreciate the couple of notes we got affirming this. So thank you all. So with that, we have a quorum tonight of trustees with Eric Fong and Gina Steiner and Sue Whitford and myself. It's my turn to read the mission statement, so I'm going to move into that. Our KRL library mission statement is inspiring our community to dream more, learn more, do more, and be more. So with that, Jason, do you have some welcome and introductions?
Yes, good evening, everyone. Jason Driver here, Kitsap Regional Library Director, and I want to welcome you all on behalf of our phenomenal leadership team. Welcome and thank you for attending tonight. We have a couple of guests tonight who will be presenting on some exciting library initiatives that we hope you'll be excited to hear about. So Emin Rogers and Glenna Madison will be giving presentations tonight. So welcome Glenna and welcome Emin.
Great, thank you. We look forward to that. Tammy, did you receive any additions or changes to the minutes?
I have none.
Okay, great. Good. And also, was there any public comment to be put forward tonight?
I received none.
Good. Okay, great. Moving on to that. The next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. All matters listed within the consent agenda are considered to be routine and will be enacted by one motion of the Board of Trustees with no separate discussion. Included in that agenda, consent agenda tonight, are the minutes of our July 28th regular board meeting, payment of April 2022 bills, which includes payroll and benefits and the blanket voucher bills. There's also the submittal, the final state auditor's office annual report, which is our submittal to them, and surplus library materials that are being withdrawn from the collection, which accounts for 4,716 items, and surplus equipment of 10 items. Might I ask my colleagues on the board if there's anything you'd like to be pulled off, or can we move this consent agenda forward as presented?
I move we accept the consent agenda as proposed.
Is there a second?
Second.
I'm a little, sorry, I'm a little confused why it says minutes of the July 28th, 2020 board meeting. It's August, or April, I'm sorry.
That's true.
Sorry about that.
I'm gonna look at those.
The minutes appear to be correct. It's just the headline in the consent agenda title.
That's correct. Apologies.
Thank you for that clarification.
26.
With confirmation that in fact we are approving the April 26th meeting minutes, I'm going to again ask, because there was clarification, can I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move we accept the consent agenda with the correction on the title.
Yeah, thank you. Eric, you still in?
Yeah.
All right, good. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. Thanks, Gina, for noting that.
Thank you.
And Eric seconded.
You did. Twice. With that, we're going to move to presentations, reports, and briefings, and we get to start tonight with our special presentation about the John Cotton Dana Award application, and we're all looking forward to it.
All right. Well, I just want to start off with a brief introduction. You're probably wondering what the John Cotton Dana Award is, so I'll start there. In libraries, the John Cotton Dana Award is the most prestigious award that the American Library Association gives. It was named after John Cotton Dana, who was a library director and museum director who really dedicated his life to making libraries as accessible as possible for as many people as possible. So this award kind of started in honor of that work. And since 1946, the John Cotton Dana Award has been given to libraries to really honor excellent work that they're doing in their communities, to partner with community organizations and to really build awareness about libraries within their communities and just celebrate libraries. So every year, 8 libraries receive a John Cotton Dana Award, and there's a check that goes along with that, which doesn't hurt. It's $10,000. And we have been lucky enough at Kitsap Regional Library to have been awarded this very prestigious and sought after award twice. So we won it once in 2014 for a One Book, One Community campaign, where we shared the one book all throughout the community, and we kind of hid it in fun and interesting places and invited our community to find the book and share the book with their friends. And then we won again in 2018, and that award was really recognizing the journey that we had been on to do the work with our community to really transform the understanding of what the library was that allowed us to pass our 2017 levy. So we've been really lucky to have the opportunity to already be awarded this award twice. But we got talking about what we might present this year, and really wanted to honor the work that our library staff did through the pandemic. And I'm going to let Glenna and Emin talk a little bit more about this, this journey that we took. So the application was for our Leaves of Hope efforts that then led into this year's One Book, One Community. And I'll let Emin and Glenna take it from here.
Thank you so much, Jeannie. Do we have the ability to share our screen? We made a slideshow.
So, but I'm Tammy and Autumn.
You should be able to. I think we're going to give you access.
We should be better at this. We do this to the library. And then
Yay.
Yay! There we go. And then we'll pull this up. All right, we're ready to go. Hello, everybody. Thank you for having us. As our title slide says, I'm Glenna and this is Emin. We're really excited to be here. I think in our mind, we've already won this award by presenting here.
Yeah, we do both use she, her pronouns, and we are going to keep our masks on because we wanted to present in front of this amazing backdrop that we built, that is the Port Orchard Library, but we wanted to be in the same screen so that we could talk to you in a more realistic way. I think the way we normally interact with each other.
I think our banter functions better when we're in the same space. So we're very used to it as we share an office. So we'll go ahead and get started. So the Leaves of Hope project really began, I think, when we came back to work in June of 2020. I think we can all remember those early days of the pandemic where there were so many unknowns and there was a lot of fear and isolation. And I think within the library, both for ourselves as library employees and colleagues, we were trying to create an atmosphere of collaboration and support. And we were really trying to find ways to build that for our community. We knew that they were feeling the feelings that we were, and we were trying to provide them library services in whatever way we could, but while also knowing that there was a necessity to find new and ingenious ways to provide those services and kind of meet this moment where it was at, and also recognize that the library, regardless of the circumstances, is a valuable community gathering space.
Right. And first of all, you should be warned, everybody, that we committed to this metaphor that we're using with the Leaves of Hope and the plants and the growing, which also fits in with our summer learning theme. But we absolutely committed to it. So we started thinking about what happens when there's a catastrophe, a major event that wipes out all the known methods of connecting, in an ecosystem. And one thing that starts to happen is that you actually have improved the soil, because you get this amazing moment of productivity in which everything is floundering and trying to figure out a new way to reach out to the other things and to regrow. And if you cast your minds back to the beginning of the pandemic, I think that was very like what we were all doing, right? Like, oh my gosh, I can't go around the corner and see my friend anymore. How do we do everything we do? And especially as a library, how do we facilitate those connections in that neighborhood gathering space without being a space in which to gather?
So these conversations, that good soil provided us the opportunity and the moment to really observe the community needs and figure out what they needed in that moment, with this opportunity for a lot of new and ingenious growth. So this slide is titled Planting the Seeds, which is we were seeing the needs of the community, and we were also connecting with our colleagues throughout the system who were observing the needs. This project really grew out of increased collaboration across the system, whether it was my conversations with some of our colleagues up at Bainbridge Island, like Jem Seddon and Emily Bufford, or Emmen's conversations with Priya Chari at downtown Bremerton. We were all trying to figure out these ways to connect with the community and kind of capture this moment that was filled with a lot of profound sadness and fear, but also provide some optimism and hope and joy to the community as well.
Right. So at this moment, I think we were all trying to kind of go into overdrive with finding those new avenues and rebuilding old ones, obviously in a way that was safe and in a way that allowed us to sort of take that hardship and that event, that ongoing event, and turn it into something that was maybe beautiful and healing.
So our virtual programming at the time really focused on providing those moments of connection in time. And you could see that across age groups and across the library system. As we put on this slide, I used examples of 3 different library programs, one for kids, one for teens, and one for adults, that really tried to that really encapsulated these moments of still providing a space and an opportunity for community connection, whether it be through the News Kids Can Use program, which really connected with children and allowed them the space to try to understand what we were going through, or Teen Truth Tea Time, which is one of our longest running teen programs with the longest and most confusing name, which is the space for teens to lead discussions on current events and topics that are on their mind, or the Anti-Racism Learning Circle, which was a space for which continues to be a space for adults to really learn and meet this moment where we're at and grow from it. And so these, we felt like, were opportunities of moments of connection where the community could connect, but we also saw a desire and a need for a tangible and living moment of that connection that was also asynchronous, that people didn't have to come to a specific program to participate in, that they could just have by coming to the library and by seeking us out.
And really interestingly, as we were talking, even though we were talking and we were all trying to sort of sort out this issue, all of these programs were sort of sprouting up around Kitsap kind of organically, right? We were all seeing these same needs and trying to come up with many, many different ways to meet that need of connection, maybe a bit of stability, some context for what is going on, and then some recognition and compassion for what people are going through.
So that conceived the project that became Leaves of Hope, which we defined as a literary garden that would foster and inspire connection in an ongoing and sustainable, tangible way. So we really wanted to hear from the community what messages of hope that they would pass on to other community members. And so we put together the project proposal, and then communications made us these beautiful postcards that you can see on the side that we, at the time we were still closed, we were just doing curbside service. So we slipped these postcards into our book bundles and into our curbside upholds. And we invited the community to share with us a moment or a thought, a quote, a drawing, anything that was keeping them going, anything that was providing them inspiration or was providing them hope in this time that they were reflecting on. And then we asked them to send it back to us so that at some point in the future, we could share that out to our patrons.
And bear with the metaphor, but as in anything that is trying to spring back from a devastation, This began with us. It began down in Port Orchard, but it very quickly moved to other branches, and they implemented in their own way. And we saw an amazing sense of an amazing amount of diversity in the kinds of responses we were getting, and in the ways people were implementing this idea. Because again, it was really the need that we were trying to get at, not necessarily how exactly it happened. I was inspired by a podcast that I listened to, which regularly uses Florilegia, which is an ancient reading practice. It's actually a monastic practice in which one reads through something and pulls out those things which sparkle at you, so sparklets. And you create your own book where you write down these sparklets, and in rearranging and reading through that book that you've created, you found new context for what you're thinking about and how you think about things. And we thought that in building our literary garden, we were really creating a Florilegium, a book of sparklets, a literary garden for our community. And then, of course, we wanted a message to your community to be an opportunity to recognize that while there were moments of inspiration, and there were certainly people who were willing to stand up and kind of be a guiding light and who needed that even, there were also moments of sadness and moments of desperation and moments when people needed some light to look to.
Right. And we, like Emin said, we really wanted those moments to exist in connection to each other. That what was important was the moment that they were reflecting on that postcard, but it was, that moment was also important within the context of everybody else's inspiring quotation. And so it was like what our patrons were writing on these postcards and bringing back to us was fundamental, but the second fundamental part was that within the context of the other cards. And that's, I think, what made it so beautiful, which you can see here. These are just a couple of the examples. We had, I think, between 60 and 70 responses just at Port Orchard in these postcards, which is a pretty substantial response for a passive program like this. And they are all unique and all different. We had adults. I really love the one in the middle that has the drawing and the quotes. And then we also had children participate. It really spanned all ages. I don't think I included any of them in this selection of them, but we definitely had some very amusing responses. Like, patrons really took this and did with it what they would, which is exactly what we wanted to see. And I think we also saw that as we were pushing these out, I think the staff at Port Orchard really felt a profound sense of hope that we would get them back and see what this became. And then every time one of them popped up in our book bins, that's how we asked people to return them. We asked people to return them through our book drops. We got very excited whenever they would return. And it was a message of hope to us as well from the community. We really felt inspired by all of these.
Yeah. And just for those who might need a little help with either the handwriting or just with sight, I am going to go ahead and read these aloud, so you have a minute to kick back and let them soak up. One is a picture of, I think, 3 hearts or butterflies or flowers with smiley faces on them. And it says, "Love the world." Another one has a rainbow drawn on it and says, by Kath Harrison, and then I can read the rest, and says, "I hope COVID-19 to be over so we can talk together, play together, be together, make new friends."
The one below, the one with the beautiful hearts and or butterflies, says, "Thank you to the library staff for providing book checkouts and to the curbside pickup. Online accounts made title searches and checkouts easy. Staff always answered questions on the phone. All good support during the pandemic."
In the middle, there's one with some beautiful yellow flowers, and underneath it says, "Sweet hope, ethereal balm upon me shed, and move thy silver pinions o'er my head," by John Keats, 1815.
The one next to Catherine's on the top right corner says, "Spring drew on, and a greenness grew over those brown beds, which, freshening daily, suggested the thought that hope traversed them at night and left each morning brighter traces of her steps." Charlotte Bronte, Jane Eyre.
And finally, the last one says, "Every breath we take, every step we make can be filled with peace, joy, and serenity." I think it's Thich Nhat Hanh, although that handwriting is actually a little difficult for me as well.
I always like that one because I start reading it and I definitely think it's the REM song, Every Move You Make. And I'm surprised every single time that it turns out not to be that song.
Yeah, that happens to me as well. We received another one that said, "We're all just walking each other home," that famous quote, which I really love. So you can see that there were a lot of different interpretations and some real humor got put in as well, but these ones were the ones that sparkled out at us.
I think we can also see from this that this was really, I think, the middle of this program and project when things were really blooming and blossoming. And we saw that we thought about the fact that growth begets more and more growth. So it was at this point that we were sharing these out to our colleagues across the system. And this is where the inspiration to include it in one book came along, because I think these really exemplify the theme of hope and resilience quite beautifully before we even got started on that project. And so it felt like a really natural fit to fold it in some way to that project, as well as other displays throughout the system. And so then when at this almost a year exactly now, because I think we put the display up June 1st, 2021, we created our literary garden through the Port Orchard branch. We put vines and flowers and butterflies and all sorts of garden creatures throughout the library and scattered our little sparklets throughout there for staff to see. And, you know, the response from the patrons and from the staff was really remarkable. We had so many patrons come up and just admire them and express how joyful they felt seeing that throughout the library, throughout our little literary garden.
Yeah, and we really wanted to give the idea, because it's true, although maybe not always quite so visible, that our patrons are as much a part of the library as their books, and that their hope and their resilience and those things that matter to them are truly a part of the library, and that as you walk through and maybe pick a book off the shelf, you can also pluck a literary bloom and gather it into your bouquet that may keep you going for another day.
I also thought Bree Barden and our John Cotton Dana application, I think, exemplified, kind of depicted this idea so beautifully when she said, "The story is displayed in the vines that grew in every library branch and blossomed with the thoughts of our community." I think she really captured the essence of this project in that. I think I would be remiss, and we'll get to this a little bit in the next slide when we talk about everyone who contributed to this, but I really loved creating and working on this project because I think it exemplifies collaboration on so many levels, both within the library system, you know, our conversations with our library colleagues, the support we had from our manager, the collaboration that we worked on with communication to create the postcards, and also like the essential collaboration that we had with the community, that we collaborated with them and they collaborated with each other. I think I'm very proud of it. And I was really inspired by how this came together on every level, internal and external.
Yeah. And that boon that we were trying to give to our community, it got to reflect back on us in that way, and that we had a richness of connection and collaboration with so many levels throughout this time.
So obviously we are still waiting to hear as to whether or not we win this major award, but we also have hopes we have all the postcards here at Port Orchard, and we do hope to bind them in some way to live in the Port Orchard Library to act as a time capsule in the future. That's just kind of gotten pushed further and further down my to-do list as summer learning and everything gets the better of us. And then we just, as with any library program, I don't think any library program happens without a strong amount of colleagues playing a real part in it. And we really wanted to pay tribute to that and pay appreciation to all the people who worked on this project on every single level. We're so grateful for the support and connection we had within the library to make this happen.
Yeah, and I would say that every one of these people listed here, as well as several others that I'm sure we've forgotten, although not on purpose.
It's our error.
They put minutes and hours into the project, but they also put a lot of heart into it and a lot of thought into giving people what they needed, and we really can't be more appreciative of that. Now we'll take questions.
I don't have a question, but I have a comment. And I just wanted to say how impressed I am with your creativity to even come up with the idea in the first place. And what a beautiful, beautiful way to capture goodness during all this time. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you. I have to say that this idea did not just like sprout out of our heads. Like Priya Chari was definitely thinking of similar ideas at downtown Bremerton. I know Jem Seddon and Emily Bufford were in talks to create a community quilt up at Bainbridge. That kind of didn't happen for many reasons, but I get such inspiration from my colleagues every day, and we really borrow and take ideas from each other all the time, which I think is one of my favorite things about working in the library.
Yeah, it's really incredible. Hey, I'm looking actually through your application and I see a series of pictures about Story Night. How did that tie? I'm assuming there was a tie-in. So how did that tie across?
So the Leaf of Hope was really used as a lot of the inspiration for a lot of the displays around One Book. And then the postcards were modified for the theme of One Book of Hope and Resiliency. At the Story Night, participants were invited to take a postcard and describe what hope meant to them, which then was reflected back to the community.
Yeah, thank you. What I love, same thing really with Sue, what I love so much about these projects that we see that come from the library, first of all, the fact that every branch is different and really allowed to sprout their own ideas, but then they go on, and how you collaborate and how they play out. I have to say, I saw this One booklet. Well, first of all, I'm involved in another organization that's been involved with Kitsap Strong. So I love to see also that cross-fertilization of other community partners. But then I did see that booklet literally not that long ago in the lobby of the Kitsap auditors in Port Orchard. So the fact that things really did move across the community speaks to the spirit of all of that. So thank you.
Runners and everything. And we'll have you using it for as well.
Yeah, I was trying not to use any more, but boy, they just pop up after.
They do. I will point out that a lot of these practices are ongoing, right? They start here, and we want them to be visible here. But we hope that people found Florilegia or a note to their community and turned it into a practice in their lives, because that's a really wonderful way to be thoughtful about what's coming to you. And it can be something someone said in a board meeting just as much as it could be something you read in a poetry book.
Well, it's a practice I've done for a long time, where you write and then you capture. I never realized there was a word for it, actually. So thank you for that as well.
Yeah, new goals is to include a quote that everybody incorporates into their Florilegia in a future board
from the board meeting, Eric.
Yeah. I very much appreciate the approach. I think it's creative. I think it's wonderful, and I think it adds yet another dimension to what a modern library is. That a patron walks in and looks for help from librarians, or looks for a service, and also gets support from the community around them. And Florilegia, one of my best Christmas gifts that I ever got was from my wife when I was having a hard time. She gave me this little booklet of a bunch of quotes from JFK and Harry Potter and Pippin and so forth. Just things that, like, quotes from things that tied us together, that I thought was really wonderful. So I think this is a wonderful thing that you've done and led. And I think it's great, and I thank you for sharing.
Fingers crossed on that award.
Major award, if I get the reference correctly, will it be Gile?
I had to resist putting in a picture of a very elaborate lamp in there, but it might fit the metaphor, so I just snuck it in.
We look forward to hearing when you win.
Thank you. That's a lot of confidence.
Yeah, I like the positive affirmations, Gina. Very good presentation. I will say, I'm very impressed with our marketing team. To win this award 2 times is a big deal. As Jeannie said, this is really, this award is and she undersold it a bit. It is a major award, but it's a PR, it's a marketing award, but also it's really unique in that this is a collaborative award, right? Because people like Glenna, Emmon, they take ideas, and I'm not going to throw the puns out there. You guys have done them already. And what the heck? And we just bring them to life. And the way we do that is we, we use our marketing teams to help develop that vision. And Jeannie does that no better. I haven't seen it really done as well as this. I come from a system where we won this award in 2016, and I was actually a part of Chicago Public Library presenting materials for the Summer Learning Challenge that won a John Cotton Dana. So to be a part of two organizations that have won 3 of the last 10 John Cotton Dana awards, I feel really blessed. And just as a bit of show and tell, this is the 2014 and 2018 awards right here. And we were going to add 2021 because it gets awarded in 2022. For 2021, we're going to add that to this hardware right here. We got to find a trophy case to put them up in. So I just want to say kudos to you, Glenna. Kudos to you, Emmett, for really taking this idea and letting it flourish. And it's really a heartwarming story, because you're right, in the pandemic, we did have dark times, but libraries were rays of hope for really everybody, because we were one of the only institutions that were available to give people that hope. People needed to get outdoors, they needed to get to their libraries, they needed to get reading materials, and you provided so much inspiration and hope. So thank you. And thank you to Jeannie, the best.
I want to share just one final kudos as we're kind of putting an end to this, that Bree Barden, our content specialist, really pulled this all together. We kind of came up with the idea to do this application very last minute. Usually I work on these applications for several months. She pulled it together in several weeks, and Glenna and Emma really came together with her to make that application possible. So just really great work and collaboration from the whole team. So
it is amazing team. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Good. Moving on from that, our board reports. Somebody want to go first?
I just have a quick, I'll just say that Jason and Lucretia and Leanne came to the Port Gamble Slalom Tribe, met with the tribal council, and talked about ways that we can, support the library, and the library can reflect the tribe's values at the little Boston branch. And it was great. And I also offered meeting opportunities for KRL, and Tammy reached out right away. And I think there's going to be a staff meeting at the tribe in July. So, whatever little ways we can collaborate. But it was good. So thanks.
That's great. I don't have anything really to report other than the board training that the rest of us went to this last month. So that was it.
Yeah, I have a couple of updates for the foundation update. At the last foundation board meeting, it was announced that with the closing of the Silverdale properties, we will meet the new Silverdale Library campaign goal of $5.5 million and officially close the capital campaign. So congratulations to Wendy and Carrie and the foundation team for achieving and surpassing the foundation's goal. So congratulations there. Additionally, in the last board meeting, the foundation created some new committees for development and DEI with the goal of our objectives being driven by the board. And so the development committee allows us to bring in other experts and other community leaders and folks who may want to contribute primarily to development without having to the operation being involved in the operations of the board. For example, if they just want to contribute to a specific campaign or a specific event, or if they have a specific talent that they want to bring, a specific fundraising talent, then they can do that. And then DEI, which is something that we're going to be talking about in a bit. There will be a DEI committee that includes several members, including some foundation employees, at least one foundation employee, to ensure that the foundation's values and operations and so forth are in line with the DEI strategic plan when it is approved. Additionally, the foundation welcomed another new board member, Jason Kitchen, out of Port Orchard. Jason came to Port Orchard by way of Washington, D.C. He has deep board experience and has volunteered for KRL in the past. He was eager to find other ways to support and contribute to the success of the library. He took the initiative to reach out to the foundation, and we're excited to have him on board. So those are my updates for today.
That's very robust. So, and we had a specific foundation report in a while. So thanks for using that moment to get that in there too. I don't have anything to report locally, but I do have to say, we took a recent trip to Chicago, which is where Jason hails from, and our hotel happened to be a couple of blocks away from the Central Library branch in Chicago, all 9 floors of the public space, which was incredible. I mean, we thought we'd go in and just do 1 or 2 floors, and we were all so captivated. We just kept going up and up and up. So I'm feeling even more lucky that he was willing to leave Chicago. And if the other branches are even a slice of what that was, that's a phenomenal library system in Chicago. So we're super glad to have you here, Jason.
And I'm happy to, I haven't attended a foundation meeting, so I will look at the schedule and be happy to sit in on one and share the report back responsibility, Eric. So
yeah, that sounds great.
Thanks.
Be good. That's perfect. We were doing that more a few months ago. We were doing that more specifically and have kind of got off track of that. So thank you, Gina, for that. That's great. Any other comments? Okay, with that, Sue, would you like to report, please, on the Finance Committee meeting?
Sure. We had our Finance Committee meeting and Dan reviewed for us the financial health of the organization, and we are on target, which is great. And just as a reminder, we do get the vast majority of our revenue comes in 2 chunks, one in April and one in October. So it's not like we get a little bit every month. It just comes in those 2 chunks primarily. We talked a little bit about property sale, both for the old Silverdale Library and the land sale, and both of those are will probably be finalized in June. We reviewed a little bit about the bargaining financials and reviewed that, and then also with regards to, let's see, the Silverdale building, we talked a little bit about what was happening there, working with Central Kitsap School District, and then some of the pending and future capital projects, the current work that's going on with McKinstry at Sylvan Way, on the roof, there's a project at Manchester, and I think the reopening date is June 25th on that. There were a couple of different dates, but I think that's the date. And then there's an upcoming asphalt project at Sylvan Way. And then there's an upcoming meeting with regards to the Port Orchard Event Center. So I think I got all that. If I left anything out, let me know.
No, I think you guys like going down the list.
Thanks.
Yeah, good, very good. Dan, would you like to follow that up with the report of the financial statements, please?
You know, Sue has stolen all my thunder, so I don't have anything to add to that. But I'll be glad to take any. No, no, just kidding. I'd be glad to take any questions if anyone has any questions on the April financial report.
Okay, no question.
Okay, all right.
From there, then to the library director's report, Jason. Oh, I caught you just as you're taking a.
No, I think I'm going to need a sip because I've got a lot to report. I will not bury the lead. And April 27th, we reached a tentative agreement on a new labor contract with our union partners. So after lengthy negotiations, we're really, really, really excited about that. Today, I'm pleased to report that contract was ratified by the union. And so, hooray, we can take a pause to clap. And I'll do more thank yous. We're going to do a special board meeting to approve the contract. We just didn't get it done in enough time to, everybody worked really hard. Our union partners worked really hard to get us to this point and to get this ratified. So really want to thank them for all of their work over the years. A lot of this work, again, predated me getting here. So I can't take credit for it. It really goes to all the people who were before me, who laid the groundwork to get us here. So thank you. Thank you, all our union partners. We want to really appreciate you. it's been hard work and it's a labor of love for us. So it's done. We will have a special board meeting on Thursday. A notice for that has gone out Thursday morning at 9, where we will present the new contract to the board for approval. So kudos to all who participated. I think I'm feeling a lot of gratitude for our team in general on both sides and from the workforce who I've gotten little notes from people who are excited that this is done. So, and then moving on to other activities since the last board meeting, I attended the Washington Library Association Conference in Bellevue on May 5th through 7th. And that was a really great opportunity for me to connect with Washington State library professionals and to really immerse myself into the library culture here in Washington. And so I attended a few good sessions and one on adult best practices, supporting the business community, Indigenous language and libraries, strengthening collections between K-12 academic and public libraries, which really has a lot of, particularly in strengthening the connections between K-12 and public. Obviously, we're at the foot of the Silverdale high school and middle school campus. And so this gives us an opportunity to have some learnings from that to be able to take forward into that relationship. And then some stuff on trauma-informed care in the library, which seems, highly relevant considering, the presentation we just had and what's happened over the pandemic and what continues to happen and just sort of the fallout from that. So it felt like, a worthy session to attend. And so I have a lot of learnings from that. And really, I just want to, full transparency, these conferences are important for not only my learning, but to be able to take back best practices to the library, to continue to work on my learning as a director and to continue to better our library here at KRL, which is a phenomenal place, but we can never rest on our laurels. So as a director, I'm going to always, seek to improve myself through trainings and professional development. And then community meetings, as you know, it's at the heart of what I do in terms of when I've been here is communication and community connections. And so since the last time, as Gina said, we met with the Port Gamble Sklallam tribe. That was a great opportunity to meet with the tribe to, get a sense of where we've been and where we're going and where we're at really with relations. We have had some turnover in terms of leadership, both at the Tribal Council and at Little Boston. So it was a good opportunity to introduce ourselves to the Tribal Council, to, talk about library services and to really, cement our promise to work with them and to be there and avail ourselves to them and vice versa. I think it was a love fest on both sides. We have a member of the tribe who works for our Little Boston, Andrea, I think works for a Little Boston location. And so it was good to meet the tribal elders and looking forward to continuing to learn about them and to learn about how to provide library services to the community. I also met with Marwan Cameron of Gather Together, Grow Together, and author of the Conduit podcast. And so his organization operates a nonprofit here in Bremerton, and they serve the community through transportation, food service, and job readiness and mentorship. So we had a really good lunch meeting and talked about his activities in the community. He's done a podcast with KRL before, and he's pretty well known in the community. He's really doing good things. And met with Charlotte Garrido, who was the last of the county commissioners who I had not met with. And so we met via Zoom and talked about, her role in the county. We talked a little bit about how she got there and talked about how I got to KRL and really wanted to see how we can better serve the residents of South Kitsap. So we are going to schedule an in-person lunch where we can talk further and really explore opportunities to provide library service deeper into the community and of her district. Let's Take a Walk Kitsap. That was exciting. As you know, that series of community educational walks has been huge in this community, and it was an amazing time. It was a Saturday well spent, I would say, of like exploring Kingston, and we only did the surrounding area around the Village Green Community Center, but we learned a lot through various stops. It was a highly interactive tour. Staff at the Kingston Library really, provided support on that day, heavy lifting in terms of cleaning trails and sidewalks and appearing on the walk themselves. Our own Tori was dressed in an astronaut suit, and we had various folks along the way. Michelle Will, her kids were part of the tour and really providing support. And it was just a really great opportunity to learn about the community and boots on the ground, like really walking and learning. And so I'm going to be participating in the rest of those tours because it's a good way to meet community members. And I did. Along the walk, I was able to meet people who were born and raised in Kingston, and also people who came from near and far to actually take part in that tour. So, and got a chance to talk to Josh Farley a bit from the Kitsap Sun, and to really just immerse myself into Kitsap. So as a new library director, it's important for me to continue to learn about the community, and so those walks are a great opportunity to do that. I love history, and so it was just a perfect tour for me. So I hope to take the family out in the next one. And then staffing, there's always a bit of a staff wrangling, and it's just the nature of the beast when it comes to libraries and places of employment in general. So in April, we unfortunately waved goodbye to Marie Peterson, who was a project coordinator, who was really instrumental in providing a lot of support around COVID, and has moved on. Havel Ali, who was a custodian at Sylvan Way, resigned, and very own Courtney Childress, branch manager of Bainbridge, unfortunately, is resigning. Her last day will be the 27th. There's more about that in Shannon's report, but I'm really sad to see her go. But it's an opportunity for her to spend more time with her family and take opportunities to, just to really, immerse herself more into family life. And she got an opportunity to provide her time to do that. So we really respect that. We have a process in place to, continue leadership there, and we have a position out. Craig will talk more about that. Changes of promotion. Kirsten Wooster was an interim human resources manager. She's our human resources. She is human resources manager now. So she was interim, and she's now permanent in that position. Alejandro Sanchez is a library assistant at Sylvan Way, a new hire. I met him a couple days ago. And then our own Rosie Bromberg, who's an associate in Polsbo, was promoted to youth selector in CTS. So that's a really exciting and huge promotion for Rosie. So I know her colleagues at Polsbo are excited, and I think our organization is excited that, she has a lot of skill sets and an interest in children, and has the abilities to be able to succeed in that job. And it really cements our commitment to employees to promote within. And so we're off to a good start, even though that happened pre-contract ratification. I'm really excited about that promotion. And we affirm our commitment to our staff in-house to give them opportunities to promote. And our service spotlight this month is our community learning internship. I'm really excited that libraries continue the tradition of providing, training opportunities for people through internships, volunteerism. It's an important part of the work we do that I think it's undersold. As a children's librarian in Chicago, I had the opportunity to run a volunteer program for a number of years that I really found impactful. I hope that it was impactful for the volunteers, but it was really impactful for me, because one of the things it gave me the supervisory chops that I needed at that point to eventually move on in my career. It gave me the opportunity to also manage teenagers, which, eventually if you know a bit about me, I not only have the 2 daughters, but I have 3 adult sons who were once teenagers. And I have a preteen who's acting as if she's a teenager now. So it gave me some skill sets to be able to manage that. So, and I think, it also gives teens and, who otherwise wouldn't have opportunities to grow and to gain real work experience. It gives them an opportunity to get that. And it gives them an opportunity to have some mistakes along the way and learn from some compassionate people, because library employees are some of the most compassionate people I know. And so I think I want to shout out to the community learning internship, because this is a little different. These are paid individuals who are youth, and maybe not quite teens. Some of them are. The current community learning intern we have is 20, and his name is Cam, and he's a phenomenal young man. I met him in Coffee Oasis in Bremerton, and we had a long talk. And what I really want to highlight from that is he really credits the community learning internship for turning his life around right now. Him as a college student, he's here from Texas. He's a long way away from home. He spent his first, year and a half at home in college and really had the opportunity to go away for the first time. And he was, a bit far from home and a bit lost. And this opportunity has given him lots of structure and has given him a way to affirm his goals and to have a person who really cares about him and people who really care about him. But he really credits this internship for providing him a lot of vision and really giving him a scope for where he wants to go in his life. He's an athlete. He plays basketball for Olympic College, and he ultimately wants to further his career college-wise, and wants to play football. But he envisions himself as a coach, and he really is crediting this with giving him lots of opportunities. And then, the last thing I'll say about it is he's interested in eventually. He probably will go back to Texas, but he's been impressed so much with the libraries and understood that libraries are more than just, books, that he wants to get involved and hopefully work to be, to work in a library when he goes back to Texas. So whether that means we catch him in this net of librarianship that, it caught me early on in my career, that remains to be seen. But he knows that this is a viable opportunity for him to work. And so if we haven't done anything right, we've at least shown him that this can be a career option for him if he, turns out that coaching is not something that, he eventually grows in. So moving on, I want to talk about partnerships. We have a partnership that went from May 16th through 20th with the Bremerton Housing Authority. And essentially what happens with the Bremerton Housing Authority is every year there's a application that opens up that provides clients to get on a wait list for housing opportunities within the community. And so we had a sweet spot in that we could provide computer access for volunteers to essentially come in, and this new portal basically used to be a paper application. Essentially, there's a portal now that applications need to come and provide their information through the portal to be able to get on the wait list. And so, we found an opportunity to partner with the Bremerton Housing Authority to have their staff and volunteers come into our libraries and provide a space to have their clients come in and provide and to be able to have these applications through the Rent Cafe. Service changes and challenges, we have seen lots of them through the pandemic. We've talked about them. Last month we talked about the shortage in paper, and so we have, with us, it's been no different in that we've had, various shortfalls in terms of resources. We've sent workers home. The pandemic has really affected libraries in ways that, we've never imagined. We've had to reinvent ourselves 100 times in order to provide the best possible services for our community. What we've heard more and more from people as the world has reopened is that people want us to be back to pre-COVID service level hours. Our community has really called out for that. We've seen that particularly with the Silverdale reopening. There's been a great interest in that library. That library has doubled its foot traffic from the previous location. The numbers are astounding, and people are using the libraries in all sorts of ways. At Silverdale, they've had, various events. They've had baby showers in the library, which you wouldn't ever think that a library would have a baby shower. But there's a great need for people, the community, to gather. And so libraries are central gathering places for our community, and people are asking for hours that would, reflect their lives, their daily lives, as people are getting back to normal work schedules and people having work schedules that are back in offices now. There's a great need for people to be in libraries, after 5 o'clock. So we've heard that, we're building in, we have the capacity to be able to extend our hours in phases. And we've talked through that process with our union partners and staff, and we continue to have those conversations. But we intend to, June 1st, have a tiered phased opening where we'll go in phase 1 of providing 4 or 5 more work hours a week for 5 locations, and then we'll extend that at the end of the summer once we have a capacity to do that. We want to be, careful that we're not overextending our staff right now, because we have had some attrition. we have had a change in how our libraries operate, that we bring everybody online and we do it in a way that's responsible to our staff, but also keeping in mind that we made a levy promise to our community and we want to be, sensitive to that. So, we owe our internal customers, which are our staff, and our external customers, which are our patrons, to be able to do it in the right way. So there's a balance, and everything is a balance. And so we intend to do that, and we intend to make good on that promise. And so that's why we're doing a two-tiered approach. And it's a smart way to do it. And we anticipate that by the end of the summer, we'll be back to pre-pandemic hours. And so we'll update the board on, what those plans will be moving forward. But it doesn't represent a departure from what our library hours would have been pre-pandemic. So, and then the phase 1 implementation will be large branches, Sylvan Way, Pools Bowl, Bainbridge Island, Port Orchard, and Silverdale. Essentially, they will expand Tuesday and Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 7, and then Saturday hours will be until 5 instead of 4 o'clock. And so the full schedule will essentially be Monday 10 to 5, Tuesday and Wednesday 10 to 7, Thursday and Friday 10 a.m. To 5 p.m. or 4 p.m. and Saturday 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. So total open hours will be 46 hours. The current total hours for those locations are 41. So it's 5 more hours a week, which is totally tolerable from our staff. And so in pre-pandemic, we were open roughly 53 to 54 hours a week. So we're just, stepping it up gradually. The smaller locations will remain at their 38 hours, which will be Little Boston, downtown Bremerton, Manchester, and Kingston, just because of a couple of different reasons. The foot traffic in those locations don't justify extending the hours and just having the lower numbers of staff in those locations. And so that tiered approach gets us at a sweet spot in terms of being able to navigate and manage it in a responsible way. And then lastly, celebrations. Always important to end on a high note. And it's hard to believe from hearing about how our Village Green Community Center took hold and how it developed. It's been 6 years since that place opened. So it's hard to believe. And hearing about it when I got here and then seeing that facility and being out there for the walk, it is an amazing facility that is really a hub of Kingston. And so it celebrated its 6th anniversary on May 4th. So cake was had there. Unfortunately, my schedule was too tight and couldn't make it, but we had a number of staff who participated in that. I want to thank our facilities crew in particular, who manages the cleaning of that facility, and our phenomenal regional manager, Leanne Winterrout, who does a phenomenal job at not only operating the Kingston location, but also being a partner in that facility with everyone who's there. It takes a lot to manage in terms of, not that it's difficult, but having all of those community partners, we help out and help really manage the entire facility. So it's a really unique situation for our library. And for those of you who are, viewing us and haven't been to Kingston, our community, you should take a trip out there and see what all has to be offered there. One of the things I learned that I didn't realize is, so in the rec center there's pickleball that happens on a weekly basis. And I learned, being a new Washingtonian, that pickleball was actually native to the state. And so I have to get involved in a pickleball game. And so I think I'm probably in that demographic that, it's the next step for me physically to get involved in some pickleball. So I'm ready to do it. And I think it's one that can be had by all ages. So I'm ready to learn more about pickleball. And that's it. That's my report. Any questions?
You heard it here first. Jason's looking for an invitation.
I need a pickleball partner. I need to learn pickleball.
Yeah, that's true. True. Good report. I'm glad there's a lot to balance as we kind of come out of the pandemic, for sure, particularly given how stretched everybody is. But it's nice to see that we're working ourselves back into those capacities, but thoughtfully also, just in terms of relevant to foot traffic, and really stewarding both our commitment to the public through the levy, but also our commitment to our staff. So appreciate that update.
Sure.
Any other questions for Jason? Okay, great. Administrative reports. So Jeannie, do you have something more?
Sure, I'll just add a little bit to what Sue already shared, which is that the Manchester branch is going to be reopening next month. So it's been closed for a little while for the renovations. The reopening, grand opening celebration is going to be June 25th. The opening kind of speech is going to be at 10 a.m., but we'll have it open all day from 10 to 2. So you can stop by anytime for festivities, activities, and just celebrating the refresh on that space. The space has been expanded. There's going to be new furniture, new updates all around. I was in just the other day and it's looking amazing. And I think everybody's going to be really happy with the results. So if you can join us, please do.
Coincide with the salmon bake?
Yeah, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the salmon bake on the 19th, which I've been drafted to sling salmon. So come on out. I can't wait. I want to hopefully participate in the making of salmon. I think I'm a pretty good salmon maker. So, but I'll be out to serve you salmon and inside. So please come out on the 19th.
I think the intent is to get a sneak peek of the branch on that day too. So
that's
hopefully
correct.
we have the branch open that day.
That'll be sneak peek day. So come on out.
You want to get ahead of the crowd.
You do.
Yeah, Jason, I'm planning on being out there as well. I'd love to sling some salmon with you. So
all right, come on out.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that's the appropriate term. The two.
It's probably not. It just seems like, yeah.
Check back in after salmon. You like gathered for that.
I hope I'm not in trouble for this one.
Somebody needs to help us out there. Good. Jeannie, anything further? Okay, good. Craig, good. You're now Craig. You were Dan Bear for.
I know, he sent me the link. So hi, board of directors, and I just wanted to introduce myself to Gina. I have not met you yet. Hi. My report is pretty quick. I just wanted to highlight a couple areas really quick. We have 2 open positions that one closed, the custodial specialist, as well as one will close on June 5th, the branch manager for Bainbridge Island. So get that word out. 2 are in process, training specialists, so we can get some great training going. Substitute custodian, we're working on 2 there. We're also posting a substitute librarian in Sylvan Way and a library associate. And then, like Dan said, we have a youth service librarian selector that they will start moving June 1st, as well as we also have a library assistant in Bainbridge Island who will also start in June 1st. And that is all I have.
Good amount of transition there. Good. Thank you, Craig. Come on.
Hey, good evening, everybody. So I just want to say a few things. One, I wanted to talk about our CTS team. Obviously, in my report, I mentioned that Leslie Caldwell, our new CTS manager, started. And she just got put right into the fire. There's a lot going on right now. And I would like to acknowledge the great work that Amy Lauder did for us as CTS interim manager. Obviously a lot of the work for the new Silverdale Library and also for Manchester, they all were sort of her responsibilities during that time. So she just did a great job for us. And as Jason mentioned, Rosie is hired as our new youth selector. She's going to be starting on June 1st. And we're all looking forward to having her. She has such a great positive energy. I'm not quite sure if any of you have ever met Rosie, but she's a really sort of an optimistic, energetic, very positive person. So we're really looking forward to having her on the team. And also, I would just like to say a few words about our IT team. Obviously, there was a lot going on in April, and I just did not find the time to get the reports in. But obviously, our IT team has done a phenomenal job in terms of the Silverdale Library and getting that space all ready. And obviously, right now, they're going to start working on the Manchester project as well. So with that, that's my report. and I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
Can I ask you about it's really literally the last item on your report, the North
Yeah.
Kitsap School District. Is that a pilot that one school?
No, so we did the pilot last year with the Bremerton School District.
Oh, that's right.
So this is the second organization or the second school district. And I know that Shannon Peterson has been in communications with other school districts in Kitsap County. So there is a possibility of adding some more this year.
Mm-hmm. That's a tremendous volume, school by school.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can
It's
someone
been a
answer
great
this
program.
question? I think we've done it in South Kitsap. Is that not correct? No?
This is our second school district.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Well, eventually we'll take it to every school district. I know we're trying to work through Central Kitsap too, and that's a work in progress, but eventually it should be in all of our school districts just because it is a natural way to really have children to have access to our libraries,
Mhm.
you know, with really just a low barrier way to access it with just their student ID. So we'll get there.
Yeah, those bridges. I think the other thing that's nice to see and reflective, I hope it stays that way, that not only have been people super busy just with big projects, but on your report lists, staff are getting out and they're getting training and they're getting professional development. It's nice to see people being able to get back out again.
Absolutely, Stephanie. And I'm not quite sure why it always happens this way, but like everything like seems to occur over like 2 months,
Yeah.
So hopefully
you.
maybe in 2023 things will be spread out a little bit more.
That's not how it works. That's never how it works. Good, thank you. Is Mike here?
Mike's out.
Okay.
I'm sorry, we've got a lot of leadership team out. This is, right before the holidays, so lots of folks have trips planned and they need vacation. They're a hardworking crew.
Yeah, no doubt. And we know we're going to talk in a minute about the DEI. Shannon's out. Wendy, did you have a report? Are you? Yes. Did I miss you? Did you say no?
I was just getting myself unmuted. So, but I don't have much to add. Thank you. I will just say thank you, Eric, for sharing our great news. And if anybody does have any questions in general for me, I didn't do a report this month, but Eric shared our great news from our last meeting. So.
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge the super hard work from Wendy and her team, which, when I got here was basically 2.5 people and went to 2 and is now back to 2.5. But Wendy and Carrie, as a team of 2 in the foundation, we've just given them time now to just breathe because on the Silverdale campaign, they've worked incredibly hard to be able to reach that financial goal and to do that with just 2 people, essentially 2.5, oscillating between 2 and 2.5 and sometimes 2.25. It's been amazing, and I just want to acknowledge all of their hard work. This is a truly gifted team that we have that's able to go out and do all the funder, meetings, the donor cultivation, and to be able to, set and reach a goal like this was just absolutely phenomenal. And teaming up with Jeannie and her team, and really it's a collaborative process, but, Wendy deserves some good time off. So I'm hopefully she can take that. And I know she could use a break right now. So we're giving her a bit of a reprieve right now so she can collect herself after 2 years and more than 2 years of being really busy on this project. So kudos to Wendy and the foundation team.
Yeah. Although I'll note, I was at an event and met another new of your member to the foundation board. And so bringing on and the level of recruiting that they're doing and pulling people onto the foundation board, that's hardly a reprieve. It's kind of getting those people up to speed and as part of the ambassador. So it's nice to be able to pause from those big projects for sure.
Absolutely.
So with that, we're on to the Tammy, is there any correspondence?
There's none.
Okay, thank you. And now on to old business. And I know Lucretia's not here. Jason, did you want to say a few words in introduction of this topic?
Yeah, just want to just kind of walk us through how we got here with our DEI plan. As most of you know, and if you don't, diversity, equity, and inclusion is very popular right now, and so it's important. And so I don't want to confuse popularity with just sort of a pop culture type of thing. Oftentimes initiatives like this are, and we see initiatives come and go, but you know, we have, first of all, I want to acknowledge that Lucretia is phenomenal at her work. And this process started long before I got here. And, you know, Lucretia really embarked upon this entire process with our previous director, Jill Jean, and with her blessing and her work with Lucretia. The foundation for this particular DEI plan was laid before I got here. I think it was important that when I got here and having conversations with Jill, that some of the processes like this and others that were in place when Jill got here, it was important for me to have a greater understanding. So we slowed the process down and didn't want to just present that and implement it with, you know, our organization until we could get, you know, I could have a full understanding of it and that we can, you know, I could feel comfortable with it. So throughout that, you know, it's been carefully reviewed by Jill, myself, leadership team, equity team, which we have Glenna here to talk a little bit about that process today. And then the board strategic and long range planning committee got a hold of the plan and looked at it. And of course, last month we presented the plan to the full board and to the public to be able to see and hear from Lucretia what this plan was and what it is and what we plan for it to be. And the goal ultimately is to just have a guiding document that will, you know, be a guidepost and having us examine all of our policies, procedures, initiatives through an equity lens. And so we don't want it to be something that we just do because it's popular to do now and we have it on the books without actually making it make a difference for our organization. So I want to be clear that we're really intentional about the fact that this is a plan that we intend to look at on a yearly basis, if not semi-annually, just because we need to make sure that the plan is relevant for a changing community, a changing organization. And it really is a changing organization right now. And so the plan, like our strategic plan, it needs to be nimble and it needs to be malleable. And you know, we're excited about the plan. It's here before you today for, you know, kind of a final wave through the board and the public to, you know, we've invited the public to have comments on it. And we sort of wanted to put the sausage out there because, you know, processes like these are important. It has a community lens on it. And so it was important to present that in a public way. And so I want to continue that and just in the, you know, to be transparent about it too. And so this was an important process and unfortunately Lucretia couldn't be here tonight. And so we really just wanted to present the plan to the board. And before we do that, I wanted to bring Glenna on to really talk about the plan and how it was, you know, processed through the equity team, because that's important that this plan needed to have, you know, stakeholders inside the organization really develop it with Lucretia and have input from the community. So I think Glenna can provide a bit of context on that. And so Glenna, if this is not too premature, if you want to jump in and walk us through what you have.
Yeah, hello again, everybody. I am sorry to tell you that the second presentation that I'm giving tonight has a lot less plant metaphors. Just to say it does not have any, but
I think we can live with that.
I want to echo what Jason was saying by starting off by saying that the librarians for many years, every year, take part in a community data exercise that was begun by Lisa Lechuga, in which we, the librarians and the managers, look at snapshots of the demographics throughout Kitsap County, specifically in our region. So for me, that would be Port Orchard and South Kitsap. And that those numbers tell me very specifically that the population of youth of color is growing within Kitsap County and within South Kitsap, which gives me really good data and really good motivation to focus on DEI and everything that I do. Not only is this work important to me as a Mexican American librarian who's working in this organization and has a really personal stake in this work, but it's also important to my community. And most importantly, I hear this from teens every single day. Just prior to coming to this board meeting, I was at an outreach at Cedar Heights Middle School. And the way those middle schoolers lit up when I told them all the things that we were planning in the library for Pride and throughout the month of June for that, it's incentivizing. And I feel very strongly that my community is telling me very clearly that they wish for me to focus on this work. And so I'm really proud of the work that the organization is doing, and specifically the equity team is doing on this plan that Lucretia and leadership and everyone has put together. I know that she took in so much feedback from all members of KRL in terms of feedback and hearing what they had to say. I think the most important thing that's reflected in that plan is she really clearly points to things that came out of listening sessions with staff, not only on the equity team, but also just all KRL employees, I think, have a vested stake and had input into this plan. I'm going to share my screen again because I wanted to share some takeaways. Lucretia asked me to share some takeaways from a training that the equity team attended in April called Awake to Woke to Work. I have attended a lot of racial equity and diversity and equity and inclusion trainings. Obviously, it's very important to my work, but this was one of the first ones that really focused on organizational change and how organizations can really lead this work rather than things we can do as individual allies and advocates, which I think was very important and valuable to all of us. So we, as an equity team, we attended this training, and let me see if I can make this a presentation. I think so. I made this on Canva, which the communications team got to us. And so the last week at our equity team meeting, Britannia Douglas led us in a post-training debrief conversation that really, these are the ideas that came out of that I really wanted to share because that conversation was so valuable to me. So the first takeaway was really a focus on radical honesty, that we need to talk about who we are as an organization, what we do, where our successes are, and where our failures are. And that involves, sitting with some of the uncomfortable failures that we may have and really being deeply, like, as Jason said, very transparent about the work that we need to do and where we want to move forward. The next aspect that we think is reflected in this plan and is deeply integral in this work is leadership investment, that we know that we cannot do this work without an investment from leadership and without them really being an example. But I also think what's very important to this work is I think we have an opportunity to really be a leader within Kitsap County for DEI work and for racial equity. I also serve on the City of Bremerton Racial Equity Advisory Committee. We have the Bainbridge Island has a racial equity advisory committee as well, and numerous other governmental organizations throughout Kitsap County are starting this work, like Jason said, but I think we're all meeting challenges in different ways, and the equity team has really talked about how KRL can really lead that charge and be an example and a leader for our community in this effort. And on that same note, we do want to connect with our community, both our individual patrons, but with other organizations throughout Kitsap County who are doing this work, whether it be Kitsap Strong or Jessica Guidry at Kitsap Public Health. There are so many people who are doing this work, and by connecting with them, we can learn from them, we can support each other, they can learn from us, and we can push not only KRL, but Kitsap County to a more equitable and diverse place. And then lastly, I really think this plan reflects what was an aha moment for me and so many of my colleagues in this training, which is this process, the process of becoming a more equitable organization, is not a process that is going to take place over 6 months or even a year. This is a long process, and we need to devote time and be realistic about that, which I actually think really fits well. I view my job as a librarian as being a lifelong learner. And by reflecting that attitude to the community, that we can, no matter what, even when we're not in school, we can always be learning. And, talking about this process of becoming more equitable and learning more, I think we're poised and we're perfectly situated as the library to be that example to the community that we know this work is going to take time and we're going to invest in that. So that is all I had. I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone may have, but I just want to say I'm really proud to be a part of the equity team, and I really hope that this is just the first of many opportunities that you have to hear from other members of this team.
Thank you, Glenna. Thank you for the wonderful presentation. And thanks for your leadership in doing this. It's really important to have our staff be a part of our organizational development, and the equity team is, a perfect example of how we want staff to be, embedded in processes like that throughout this organization. So thank you for all of your work, and we appreciate you.
Thanks.
So I really wanted to open this up now for any public feedback from our board about the strategic diversity, equity, and inclusion plan.
Hi, thanks so much for sharing your I can tell that you're passionate. So appreciate your leadership here, and appreciate the hard work so far of reaching out to the rest of the staff for feedback and incorporating feedback on a subject that can be difficult and challenging, but incredibly rewarding if folks put in the work. I think the question that I have, and I've been in the corporate world for a long time, and I've seen DEI programs that just don't do well because there's just a lot of they're dispassionate, and there's no accountability to changing a culture, and there's not really any effort to meet numbers and the numbers and the culture don't even line up. So I think that you have a good foundation for the culture that you want here. And I brought this up last month, and I believe Lucretia said she was working on it, but I wanted to see what are any next steps regarding metrics to make sure that the things that you're putting in place are working. I think it's great that this is this kind of a foundation piece, and you're gonna review it again next year. But what's going to drive what changes next year? Whether it's retention or attrition or an open feedback loop, but I think that's my big question. How are we tracking to ensure that we're successful, and that we don't wait a year and say, well, we didn't do it, but that we have checkpoints along the way to make sure that everyone is comfortable and heard, and it's a workplace where everybody feels welcome and included, but also there are metrics to ensure that we're on the right path. I think also from a foundation standpoint, it's useful for us to understand how the DEI piece is moving the needle and really creating a more inclusive library. So really around the metrics is my question, and if there are any next steps there.
Yeah, so it's a really good question, and I don't know if Glenn, you can provide any feedback, but I know from our talks, particularly with our leadership team, I think we have to go like a micro macro approach. So in our last leadership team, for instance, we really talked about a great need for us to, start with, our own leadership team in terms of how we go about understanding each other, how we recognize our own cultural differences first and foremost. It's obvious that we put a lot into the plan and reviewing it, but we have to we have to take a look internally first at our own processes and procedures, and look through how we manage a library through our own equity lens first. And so that'll be undertaken first and foremost. Devising trainings, I think, is going to be important that reflect the community that we have. So in terms of like metrics, I think those will be developed as we develop initiatives. So for instance, having a training director or training specialist, that will be on board, we'll start to look at trainings that reflect the current culture of our organization. So I think, this may not get at the exact answer you want, but every initiative that we design, from our leadership trainings to our trainings with staff, I think we have to view it in the lens of like, who is this training for? What's expected out of the training in terms of how staff will grow from the training, and how's it reflective of the communities that we serve? And so looking at that data piece that Glenna talked about and making sure it's reflective in terms of metrics, those are going to be ongoing. Like making sure we reflect the community is just, it's a work in progress, in terms of like, and I'll throw one out, for instance, and it's probably the most salient one, making sure that we have a workforce that's, inclusive of our community. While it's a lofty goal, that's one that could be a sliding scale of how do we know we're doing a good job of doing that? And we may not actually catch all of the employees we want that are reflective of the community, but are we making sure that we get out community notices and we're doing recruiting in those communities? Because that's important too. We might actually get to that goal of having a workforce that's inclusive of the demographics in the community, but are we going to those demographics to be able to recruit?
Right.
Are we going to those demographics to be able to talk about library services? Are we making sure that library services are in those communities? That's a broad goal. And I think metrics wise, we have to make sure that we're reflecting that community. But first, understanding our own differences and where we stand and how policy's been driven. It's more of a reflective walk back too, and figuring out what have we done in the past and has it yielded the results that we want? So it's a changing process. I don't think we can give you any hardcore metrics right now. And certainly gets good feedback. And I think Lucretia's taken that to heart. But it's one in which we'll be continually taking a look at, I think, with each initiative, and we'll try to design metrics out of that initiative.
Yeah, that approach makes sense, and I'm all in support of the DEI strategic plan and creating that sort of environment that you want that would make me feel welcome as well. But I think that there's you want to control. You want to make sure your story is solid when somebody comes along with no information and says, that's not working. You're just doing that for whatever reason. You can come back and say, no, actually, it's really good for business. It's good for our community, and here's how it's improved. We have an employee base that is more reflective of our county. Our employee satisfaction is through the roof, and so forth, and just showing those numbers. And really, that's. If it's being worked on or if it's evolving, completely understand. But those are things that we want to show that we want to be able to present to the public to show that what you're doing is working.
Yeah, well, we appreciate the feedback and thanks for the question.
Yep.
I kind of have a similar question too. So thank you, Eric, for asking about the metrics, because my question was along those same lines about, timelines and how will we know if we're successful, and will some of these goals that are in this plan kind of feed up and be part of the strategic plan, the overall strategic plan? Is that kind of where we'll see more concrete sort of timelines and things like that? Or I'm trying to understand kind of how this fits in to all the other plans that are going on, because it seems to me like things would all kind of flow up to a strategic plan, and that would be the overall plan.
Yeah, it's a good question. So we view this not as a policy, but it's an addendum to our strategic plan. And look, our strategic plan for 2022 has already been developed, so we can't slam it in. It's an arm of our strategic plan right now, and we're starting to take a look at where our strategy will go from here. And Jeannie and I are just having those conversations, and so our next part is to weave it into our strategic plan for the next iteration of it. So right now we view it as it is part of our strategy. So I want to be clear about this. This isn't our this isn't like one of the human resources policies. This isn't the patron code of conduct.
Right.
This is a plan that will be embedded into our organization, and particularly will guide strategy and how we work in this organization. And so back to what Glenna said, this is in terms of metrics, in terms of timelines, it's the long game with this part too, because when you start to talk about equity, it's a hard grasp. What is equitable? What isn't? What is inclusive? What isn't? We have to take a look at those definitions. In my meetings with Lucretia, and for those of you who particularly our community that it's watching, part of what my job is to meet with all of my directors and talk about the strategy of this organization and where we're going. So when I've talked to Lucretia in our one-on-ones, and I meet with all of my directors one-on-one, and we talk about what's happening in the departments, where this organization is going, we see strategy as the long game here. And so having said that, there's no rush to try to put out these magic goals that we want to get to. It's uncovering every rock in this organization and figuring out how we can improve ourselves and how we can put it through this equity lens. So think of it as like this, that Lucretia is going to be taking us through essentially an exercise and an examination of what has been our, for lack of a better, word, what has been our really our mode of operating in terms of through an equity lens. Have we been equitable? Have we not? Have we been inclusive? So we're going to put ourselves through the paces, but we have to start with the leadership team first, and we have to be the test dummies in practice, and we have to weave it into our trainings. We're going to start to have leadership retreat. We're going to have soon. We're going to really try to do some training and figure out our own biases. But Sue, more to your point, this is a strategy, and this is going to be appended into our strategy right now, and then it'll be woven into our next strategy, which we will start to work on here soon.
I also wanted to jump in and add that as a librarian, one of the things that really energized me when Lucretia came on as the director of diversity and inclusion is that she has been so meticulous about documenting this process from start to finish. She's been incredibly transparent, and I feel like she's really led through an example in that. And so I know that with this DEI plan that she's come out, she could almost certainly quote specific staff members that created those goals that she saw. So while we may not have like a set of specific tangible, a tool to measure those tangible outcomes at this moment to hand to you, I am certain that she has them, and she's working on that. And the equity team is also practicing out some of those as well. And she also is constantly soliciting feedback from all staff members, whether they be members of leadership team or our frontline staff across the system, to really gauge how this is doing. And personally, it's been really exciting to see her start this effort, and I'm really proud to be a part of it.
Okay.
And I want to provide a little more context here too, because it's important to know that a lot of what's going to happen in this particular plan is going to be training driven. And so it's imperative that once we get our training specialists on, and I've talked to both Lucretia and Craig, our new HR director, and they've already started a really good working relationship. HR touches every facet of this organization. So this DEI plan will, be really put through the paces with HR. And so when we talk about training, everything from, and I'll just even look at one of Lucretia's points when we talk about developing a diverse workforce of talented individuals who feel safe and respected, supporting projects, evaluating existing human resource practices, and create a comprehensive diversity hiring plan. We really need to tear apart our current plan, and not tear it up and throw it away, but we need to unpack it and figure out what needs to be tweaked in order to fit that particular goal 3.1. And so it involves Craig and his team a lot. It involves me, of course, it involves Dan, it involves a lot of us to really jump in and provide and assist with that. But these are things that are going to take quite a bit of time to do, but we're ready to, as soon as we get our training specialists, and even I would say even before then, we're starting to examine those, and we're starting to, develop a practice of equity and all that we do. And, I just want to reiterate that it's a process, and it's a long process, but we're excited. We think that this one has a lot of teeth, and we think it's one we want to be held accountable to also. And lastly, that's the last thing I'll say, unless you have any other questions, is that's why we need to present it in a public face to the board and to our public, because if we want to do something, the best way to do it is to put it out there in front of everybody, and so that everybody can hold us accountable. And it seems.
Jason, you're muted.
Sorry about that. I got excited and threw my paper on the mute button. Catching up with myself, to put it out here in front of the public, to be able to throw it out here, to be accountable, gives us, I don't feel like it's pressure, because I feel like Lucretia has the wherewithal and the professionalism and the knowledge and the abilities and skills to be able to implement this plan with all of us. And I think it just puts it out in the public and holds us accountable in a way that we wouldn't if we just held it secretive and just embedded it within all of our policies and procedures. So I want us to be held accountable to this. I want our public to hold us accountable. And you know, it's a lot of pressure seemingly, but I think we can handle it. I know we can handle it, and we'll be successful. And I plan to be here for a long time. So I want to see it to its fruition. I want to look 10 years down the line and say that we've really changed the culture in this organization from top to bottom. And it's going to take, you know, probably that long to do, because, you know, there've been, you know, there've been practices that have been in place long before I've gotten here. And it doesn't mean that they're wrong. It just means society has changed in a way that, you know, all of us haven't been able to keep up with. And this really gives us a good, you know, set of practices to be able to do that.
You know, I want to give you a chance to just give your reflections, and then I have some too.
Yeah, well, I was just going to say, there's a lot to take in here. I'm sorry I missed the last board meeting, but I was looking at her report, her DEI report, and not necessarily the plan and stuff. I like the agenda topics that for training that she's offering, and I like the materials that she's providing for people to read. So I'm going to try to, at a very minimum, you know, I already pulled up the Seattle Times article that she shared as an article, and I think that the board can jump in on these with this information that she provides to us, and challenge ourselves and take the opportunities to. And then I assume that when we have our board retreats and whatnot, that part we will allocate, or I don't want to assume, but I hope that we will allocate time for us to receive some of this type of training too in our specific board retreats. So that's my thoughts on this. Thank you.
Good, thank you. I think, Jason, I mean, my commentary on this would be, and I think sometimes it's about how we language stuff, right? What terminology we use. So this gets presented as a plan. And this is an example of just the journey. I think we all have an associative meaning, what we think that means, right? It's pretty descriptive. And I think certainly what we've heard tonight, and when I read it earlier, I was locked into that, oh, it's a plan, and where are the timelines and where are the metrics? And I think what we're learning tonight is definitely a couple of things. This is a first step on it's really the beginning of a process. And I'm a little, actually, I don't even know if I want to call it a plan, if we can find another term that's a little bit more prescriptive and a little bit more illustrative of what it truly is as it goes along. Because I think the other thing we recognize here, and we talked about this last time, which is it needs to start within. So it starts with us as individuals in terms of learning ourselves, and then how do we learn together? So a lot of it's very internally focused, and necessarily so. And I think my concern, just the way it's positioned at the moment, is if people aren't following along with the conversation and they see this, it is open to criticism because it doesn't broadly reflect the community, or it doesn't broadly speak to that external part. Not saying it should. I think if we think a little bit more about how to position it in terms of where we're at today and where we're going, that makes sense. Because as an example of that, there's a whole section in here for the Board of Trustees. There's a whole section in here for the Foundation Board of Directors. So when we call it a plan and maybe we seek approval, we actually haven't gotten a chance to talk through what's our role specifically in our areas of influence to kind of come around this. And I know we're going to get to that, and I'm really glad for this beginning conversation. But I think when I first looked at it, that was kind of the top note reflections. And I think now we're learning this isn't really a plan that you're actually, because it's fairly operational. So I also questioned, is it really our job as a board, because we're policy to approve something that is so operational at the moment? but definitely to be affirming and to get in alongside and even integrate within in terms of how do we achieve these goals together.
Yeah, thank you. That's good feedback. And you're right. It's ultimately not, it isn't, it's operational in that it's not a policy, right? It is an operational goals that we have. So ultimately we're not here to ask the board for approval, but merely to, demonstrate our plan for the organization in a public way. And so I want to be clear about that. We intend to append it into our strategic plan. We do intend to, we'll wordsmith the language a bit in terms of plan, procedures. We'll figure that part out. And then in terms of like the board development stuff, I think that's stuff that we can, separate and give to the board for inclusion in boards bylaws eventually, and we can bring that back. But I think it makes sense to do that based on what you said, because you're right. Yes, the board has not had the opportunity to fully wrap its mind around that piece of it. So I think in hearing that, I would be comfortable with stripping that away. But ultimately, I just want to come before you today to just say that we intend to make this part of our strategic plan immediately, and to make sure that the stuff that reflects or relates to the board, that we strip that away and we talk about those processes a little later.
Yeah, good. Well, and I think Gina's right. Lucretia's done a great job. The team's done a great job. I would also affirm that. Lynn, it's really nice to see you. It's nice to see other members of the team be brought forward in terms of representing and advancing that, because I think that's one of those signs and symbols, if you will, about how integrated are we truly getting when in fact we see different members of the staff coming forward, and not just always, and it starts with the director, obviously, but not to always have it be one person's job, but how are we truly integrating and embedding that? And so it was nice when I actually read the overview separate from the plan that that's really the intent. And then it's so quickly being operationalized and having Glenna here in Lucretia's absence.
I promise you that this is just the first of needs to hear from other members of the equity team. I think I was put forth because I was already on the agenda, but I know that my colleagues on the equity team are eager to come and speak and their experience as well. So you'll be hearing more.
We hope so.
As this work moves forward, I fully envision that it will be just that. It'll be other members of the equity team coming to the board to give status reports on where we are and things we've implemented and how we've been successful in doing that, or maybe not successful. I think we have to be clear that not everything in this plan will be immediately successful or even in the long range, but the fact that we're going to make a good college try to do it, I think that we're going to be successful. I mean, we have an incredible amount of talent and energy and care and compassion in this organization, and I can't see how it wouldn't, just because this is an organization full of hard workers who are very competent. And I'm excited to really pick this apart and work on it with everybody from top to bottom and bottom to top on this plan.
I just wanted to add to that. I'm really looking forward to some training because I haven't had any training on DEI. I mean, I've read what Lucretia has put forward and I've read some of the links that she's provided and things, but I feel like I don't understand it very well. And I'm also I'm very much looking forward to understanding specific changes that are being made to be more inclusive and to provide equity to people. And so I hope that as we move on from this, that the board gets information about what changes are being made and kind of tie it back to this DEI plan or whatever we're going to call it, but so that we understand that these are the things that are happening because of this. Does that make sense?
Yes, and you will.
Okay.
The board will be given periodic updates. Any more commentary, questions? Eric, did you have anything else?
No, I do not doubt or question at all the passion and the intent behind this. I think it's all wonderful. I just want to see it do well. So when I talk about the metrics, I say let's give no excuses and let's make no bones about it. This is how we want to move forward, and this is the environment that we want to create. So
I agree. And Eric, I fully appreciate the commentary, and you're right. And you know, I think our little time together, you should know that's how I like to operate. You know, we set it goals and we go out and get them. And that's how this organization will be. And it already has been, but that's my style of operating. Like, let's not only have lofty goals, but let's go out and get them and you know, set some smart goals in order to reach the overall goal. But we can do it. And we will make sure that we're accountable to this organization, you know, as a whole, the board and all of our community that is supporting us. So we've got a lot of supporters, and we owe it to our community also to be reflective of it. So library is a you know, great reflection of the community. And so we're going to get there.
cats too.
Cats, yes. We just, as I joked today, we just sit around watching cat videos all day. We're not working here.
Yeah, Gina, I'm laughing because I was trying to keep mine off camera. You know, they hear people talking and they want to participate. So good. Any other final comments on you know, the strategic diversity, equity, and inclusion plan? This meeting, we know that we're going to have other opportunities to keep talking it through.
We will.
So what's our path forward on this action item? Right.
What's that?
It's an action. This is an action item, right? This agenda item. So.
Well, I think it got presented as an action item as if the board is going to approve it. And I think as we talked through it, I don't know that we're in a position to actually vote on it per se.
It actually can also, the older new business can be just discussion items as well.
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
we're just changing it to a discussion item because there's nothing to approve, because it's not a policy, right? And so I
Right.
think given that, it doesn't need board approval. We just want to put it before the board and our public that this is our intention to make the actual, and we're calling it loosely a plan, but we're going to incorporate this into our framework to be woven into our strategic plan, which already exists. So we're essentially appending our strategic plan.
Yeah. And I think, Eric, I think when I look at, I mean, great items, I think under both the trustees, but also the foundation board. But I think, you know, certainly as we go forward and have opportunity, we'll have to discuss, you know, what are the implications? I mean, part of what Lucretia noted was things about board recruitment for the trustees, but we're actually not a self-perpetuating board, right? We are a public board that gets appointed by individual commissioners. Now, I think it's still worthy as a group to be talking about how do we look for prospects and candidates of the board that reflect the community and would serve us well. So I think we have to figure out how to take up some of these discussions and probably need a committee of our own to kind of explore some of those things, and or the same thing with some policies. One of the other areas as a board that we actually have some impact on is policies, but at the moment, the way we're structured, because it's historical, is we have one delegate. So we'll probably need to talk about how do we actually take up the work so that we actually are also doing our part to move it forward and to be accountable to ourselves and our leadership team, and frankly, our community and our staff as well. So.
Yep.
Good. We don't have any other items, no new business, which leaves us to kind of close out the meeting today with housekeeping. We did note earlier that we do have an exciting meeting later this week, a special meeting of the Board of Trustees to talk through approval of contract, which we're all very much looking forward to doing. That is Thursday on May 26th at 9 a.m. And then our next regularly scheduled monthly meeting of this board is on Tuesday, June 28th. And it looks like, Gina, your opportunity, if it works next, to attend a KRL Foundation meeting is Tuesday, July 12th.
Already have it in my calendar with Wendy, thanks.
Oh, good. Well, you guys work quickly. Good. And don't forget, salmon slinging at the Salmon Bake on the 19th, as well as the opening of the Manchester Library on June 25th. And with that, I will call this meeting adjourned. Craig, do I see a hand? Oh, it was my hand. Okay.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Good night.